Hello, dear ones. Welcome to the Indigo Rose Lounge. I'm Alyce Dylan, your host. Please come in, get comfy, pull up a throw. Today, we're going to have a look at responsibility, and it's become a bit of a dirty word. Take responsibility. I think it's because our parents all, laid that one on us. And it's a pit of nails, really, because over time, responsibility has become this burdensome thing that when you throw it into the collective, there used to be clear definitions, man, woman, who was responsible for what, and now it's just become a mess. Nobody knows who's responsible, but really, the real culprit is the victim triangle. I've spoken about this before. So picture a triangle in your mind. In one corner is the word victim, in the other corner is the word rescuer, and in the other corner is persecutor. So you have victim, rescuer, persecutor. Now, to live in the victim triangle, and a lot of us can grow up this way because our parents imprinted. If they were victim-minded, it can become the thing that we are raised in. The victim triangle can become our nursery pen, if you like. And it takes heaps of will and self-analysis and self-understanding to pull yourself out of a victim triangle if you were raised in it. One thing that people in the victim triangle are stuck in is shame and blame. Everybody else is to blame for everything, or we're to blame. So someone's to blame for everything, and with that comes a weight of shame. So if you haven't done well enough, if you haven't exceeded your own expectations, then your responsibility from within the triangle becomes a weight of shame, blame. So, and from that context, the idea of responsibility really takes on a very skewed dynamic where nobody wants to go near that. We don't want to look at that. All right. So how do you know? How do you know someone is in a victim triangle? Well, if they see the entire world as either fellow victims, potential rescuers, or persecutors, that's a good indication that that person is stuck in the triangle. And the real shame of it is nobody can pull you out of a triangle. No one. And I'm talking not counselors, not psychologists, no one can pull you out of your victim triangle if you're in that. So obviously, if there's anyone on the other end of this listening to this, and you know that you see the entire world either as your fellow victim, your persecutor, or your rescuer, everybody in the world falls into one of those three categories, then I'm not blaming you because I'm standing outside of the triangle and I don't associate blame and shame with any of that. I'm not saying you're a bad person and I'm not judging you at all. If you recognize that you're acting from within the triangle, it might be a good thing to start to do some reading or start to understand how this triangle is used to manipulate people and how you might have been raised within this triangle and not know anything different. For people outside the triangle, if you weren't raised in it, if it wasn't imposed on you, if you didn't fall down the slippery slopes of cultural manipulation that would have taken you into this triangle, you will know someone who's in the triangle by the fact that they do not see people beyond their label. So someone who's in the triangle is really stuck in a survival state. And if you're in a survival state, and I've used this example before, you're traipsing across the plains of Africa, and there's a lion, and there's a zebra, and there's a tree. In an instant, you are going to identify these things and say, okay, that lion, he looks hungry, he's my potential persecutor. That zebra is my potential fellow victim, but that tree might be my rescuer. And so it's a survival instinct from within the human experience. It's it's part animal, because animals also will make this qualification. And in that moment, it serves us, because in that moment, we're going to know what to do, climb the tree, right? And hope that the lion is satisfied with the zebra. If, however, we continue that thinking, so we're now home, no lions, there's no zebras, and there's no trees, there's just a comfy bed and nice space. If we continue to perpetuate that thinking, then that dynamic has been misappropriated. And in our normal lives, our day-to-day existence, this triangle can be used to manipulate us into perpetual crisis. And when we're in perpetual crisis, we tend to bring out the survival tool every day. The problem with it is that when you're in survival, you don't really get to see the people behind the labels. So if you're a victim and you believe, all the other nice people are fellow victims too, so they're all victims, your mind, stuck in the survival dynamic, never really gets to know people beyond that label. And it's not necessary. If you're in survival, standing there on the plains of Africa, looking at the lion, and you've identified the lion as a persecutor, you're not going to stop and have a chat. You're not going to stop and have a conversation. Likewise, you're not going to stop at the tree and say, Mr. Tree, would you mind if I climbed up and got away from this lion? And even those of us that are diehard animal lovers have to confess that stuck in that kind of situation, we really are not going to give too much thought to the zebra. We'll sit up in the tree and bemoan the zebra's plight, but we're not going to sacrifice ourselves for the zebra. If you think you would, I think you got to have a come to something moment with yourself, because that's the level of honesty there with yourself might be worth questioning. Because in that moment, in that fight or flight, survive or die moment, your values are not going to be at the top of your list. So, not as the normal human experience, right? So, what you're missing out on from inside the victim triangle is your fellow victims. You're never getting to know them. You're never really knowing anything about them, what their value is, what their beliefs are, other than anything you learn incidentally. But your interest will not be there to discover who this person really is, because in your survival dynamic, you're really just always scanning for who's my potential rescuer out of my survival state. If you meet someone who's driving a nice car and obviously has a bit of disposable income, you're also going to be laying a trap for yourself, because if you identify someone immediately as your potential rescuer and you don't look beyond that label, so this person's obviously affluent, they're saying the right things, fine, you've labeled them now rescuer. It actually could be someone with really bad intent who is looking to gratify themselves or lead you down a bad path. But if you're not looking past the potential rescuer label, it's not going to have a good outcome for you. Same thing with persecutor. You look at someone, you label them persecutor immediately from your survivalist mindset, and you're not looking past whatever that persecutor is. So there is a lack of discernment and there is a lack of critical thinking for people in the victim triangle. It's also impossible from within the triangle to do what I would like to talk about today, which is taking ultimate responsibility. Once you're outside of the triangle, especially as a spiritually perceptive person, when we take responsibility for something, it doesn't mean we get out the lashes and we beat ourselves up. It means that something happens in our existence and we ask ourselves the question, wow, what frequency was I on that I allowed for this to come into my existence? What is it in my personal framing or my personal belief system that has made room for this huge truck of whatever to back itself into my world? When we can take responsibility at that level, when we can say, I understand that my frequency, that my level of vibration in the world makes room for something passing or not passing me by, then we can truly own our life experience. The ultimate answer to all of it is, yeah, you got it, to love always, because that keeps your vibration high. And at a high level of vibration, the only things going to be backing into your driveway are going to be things, gifts and bounties and yay and yummy. Yeah? So just a little thought about taking 100% responsibility, what that looks like. It's not about blame. It's not about shame. It's not even about drama. It's just about saying, what was I focused on? What did I pay attention to? What was I entertaining that made room for this? What is it in me that's still holding on to something that has made allowance for this? And as always, the answer is, as much as you can, just love. Always.